If you could both start off and give me a background on Radio Werewolf, let's start there.
Well, Radio Werewolf was founded in 1984 as the manifestation of a certain quality in not the human experience, but what has been understood as the human experience. It's a quality that people are frightened of, a quality that people consider evil, and it's something that has been very little understood until now. And in 1984, we consider that the lycanthropic revolution began. And since that date, we have summoned up the dark forces in man. We're summoning up the wolf in man. And we're calling on everything that has been forbidden, everything that has been locked up and restrained. And our work is designed to unleash the beast in man once and for all.
What's the final objective, though, once you unleash the beast in man?
Well, we don't have a linear objective that we could explain to you in a way that you could simply understand. But certainly, our quest is for world domination. In the simplest terms, our quest is for power for its own sake, power used to the extreme as it has never been used before.
We both individually had this quest, and then we bonded together and the power increased. And we find the more people that become involved, the power increases, and it gets to be a larger and larger phenomena. As you saw tonight, there are masses of people who are being drawn to this. For the first time, they're coming out of the closet. They've always been around. It's always been the same small percentage. But they're coming out of the closet now, and they're exposing themselves, and they've always been more powerful than the mortal.
We separate the human race into two species, predator and prey. And that is why we've chosen the wolf imagery as our standard and our symbol. And the rest of humanity is really of very little concern to us. Our main purpose is to create an elite, a power base of masters who will finally remove the excrement of Christianity, Judaism, Mohammedanism, all of the traditional slave religions, as Nietzsche called them, and we mean to destroy them by any possible means. This is the first phase in a revolution that will continue into the 21st century. It's, by some people's standards, a demonic revolution, but it is the liberation of the finest things in man: beauty, strength, wisdom, and everything that has been perhaps condemned as the black arts, as evil.
When you say by any possible means, what exactly do you mean by that?
Our music is designed to awaken primordial instincts in the human mind, and whatever comes of this is our desire. When we perform music, it's a ritual. It's a very specific ceremony designed to unleash these emotions.
We incorporate the dominant frequency. That's a frequency that human beings respond to. It's an ancient frequency that's always been around. Everything breaks down into vibrations, and by controlling that, you can control both matter and thought. And we've investigated this, and we've spent a lot of time, and our music incorporates the dominant frequency in our control of the masses.
And we're living in a dead world at this moment. The world ended a long time ago. Those who fear that the world is going to end are very mistaken, because when we look around us on the streets of our rotting metropolises, we see automatons. These people are zombies. They have no spirit, they have no will, and the time has come at last for those of us who still have a will, for those of us who do have a vision of beauty, of strength, and really of a world where the truly demonic possibilities of man can be unleashed once and for all. We represent above all other things order versus chaos, strength versus weakness. And what's happening right now is a process where the weak are falling off. There's a death wish in the human race that's expressing itself in mass murder, in all sorts of manifestations, and we encourage that. We would like to see most of the human race killed off because it is unworthy. It is unworthy of the gift of life.
Is that something that you plan to support, that killing off process, or will it be something that...
It's already begun. We're working with natural law. We're working along with natural law. And nature has now decreed that most of man must die. And as I say, we are forming an elite. This is the first step in forming really a master race. That's the only term that I can use.
Yeah, as I said before, it's
What about your music in terms of its control over people's minds? How effectively does that?
We have utilized the dominant frequency, which we referred to before, which is a certain vibration that when it is responded to in the human mind can unleash these possibilities. And that's what we're interested in. We don't really care if people understand our message. We're not proselytizing, we're not preaching, we're not trying to gather anyone into our fold. These middle-class housewives that are worried that we want to abduct their children are barking up the wrong tree, because we wouldn't want anything to do with their whole mediocre and corrupt lifestyle. We're building a new world.
Yeah, our music has order. The music of today, in most parts, is chaos and noise. And structure and order have always been a part of great music, and that same structure and order go throughout the universe. So the music becomes at one with the universe.
We are part of the natural order, as are all of the people you've spoken to tonight. We are reflecting what is beautiful in nature. And of course, the irony of that is that most ignorant human beings will mistake that as evil. They are frightened of their own possibilities. They're frightened of freedom. And their whole life is lived in fear. And that's why we will be their worst fear, their worst terror, their worst nightmare.
Tell me about the record that you'll be doing with Anton LaVey.
Well, Boyd Rice of Non and myself will be collaborating with Anton LaVey on a recording project where he will be performing various invocations, the Elektrische Vorspiel from the Satanic Rituals, a piece from H.P. Lovecraft entitled Psychopampos, and of course H.P. Lovecraft is one of the minds who influenced us most. His understanding of the darker regions of life has been a great inspiration to us. But this will be the first recording that Anton LaVey has done in 20 years since the Satanic Mass, and it's sort of a symbolic recognition that there is now a renaissance of satanic thought. What has been bubbling underground like a volcano for these past 20 years is now bursting forth, and the effect on the world is going to be overwhelming, really.
How long personally have you had, let's say, a satanic consciousness?
Ever since I was born, and perhaps before that. Which, you'd have to define what a satanic consciousness is. I do not worship an anthropomorphic deity named Satan. I don't worship some sort of character in the infernal regions with horns on his head and a tail. It's much more mysterious than that. We worship ourselves. We are the only gods in the universe. We create our own reality. And that force in nature has been misunderstood as evil. But there is no good and evil, and intelligent people understand that. And we're only interested in gathering intelligent people together for the conquest and betterment of a new world.
Explain some of these symbols around us here.
Well, this is Baphomet, who is one of the traditional representations of the satanic entity. Above on this black and white circle is the symbol of the Church of Satan, and I think some people may be familiar with the swastika, which is the symbol of the Black Order in Germany, which was pretty much brought into use by the Thule Society, Guido von List, and the Armenen, who are very much inspirations to our work. And I think it's important to recognize National Socialism as one of the few times in the 20th century that humanity's full potential has been unleashed. The predatory instinct, the beast in man, was fully unleashed in that period. And I think since 1945, we've seen the decline of ethics, of values, of knightliness, of order in the world, and that will continue until now, because it's going to change. Because there's too many people of like mind, kindred spirits to ourselves, who are prepared to wage war on corruption and weakness and decadence.
How do you respond to the attacks from other organizations and what have you towards yours? Is that something that concerns you?
I react to it with contempt and amusement in equal measure. I don't really care what other people think of our work, because we have no concern for the masses, and as I said, that's why these people are so misguided in their fears that we want to have anything to do with them. A perfect world to us would not include most of these people that are so frightened of us. And perhaps our philosophy ultimately will lead to their removal, but in a way that they'll never understand. What's going to hit them is going to hit them so hard that they'll never know what hit them.
Aside from your music, what other means are you using to communicate to?
Well, Radio Werewolf is really a communications empire. Radio Werewolf was the name of the last broadcasting station in the Third Reich, and in that sense we are returning to that spirit, and we're broadcasting the way of the wolf to the entire world, through film, through literature, through music, through every medium.
Tell me about the literature.
Well, I've recently published the Manson File, which is probably the first objective portrait of Charles Manson, who's one of the more important thinkers of the 20th century and has previously been dismissed as a madman or a psychopath. And this is the beginning of a huge revisionist project that will continue until we reclaim history as our own and take it out of the hands of the slaves and the weak.
Okay, Alvin?
Might be interesting to mention that Manson brought us together.
Yeah,
Manson introduced.
Why don't you
that is worth.
paraphrase that, Sylvia?
Okay. The Abraxas Foundation, which Boyd Rice and myself pretty much founded, was brought about by a series of coincidences and events that have been to us a proof of our destiny. We were both corresponding with Charles Manson, and basically it was Manson who introduced us. So our work certainly continues his legacy to a degree. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be also releasing on Feral House a book entitled The Demonic Revolution, which will be the first book to fully summarize from a satanic point of view what's going on in the world today, what this unleashing of demonic activity is really all about. The return to order, the return to authoritarianism, the return to traditional aesthetics, returning to the old world, the ancient world, the primeval world. And it's much needed because most of what you people in the media have portrayed has been lies, frankly. It's been lies. And you exploit the fear of human beings to make profits, which is a natural instinct. But it's time to tell the truth about all these things, and of course the truth frightens people.
Mm-hmm. How do you see the world changing, let's say, in the next 20 years from your perspective?
It's going to be moving so fast that, as I said, the average human being is not going to be able to comprehend what's going on around them. We're seizing control of the media. We have scientists working for us. We have people in every field, intelligent, competent, ambitious people who have no guilt, who have no shame, and who have removed the filthiness of the Judeo-Christian ethic from their entire lifestyle. And when that happens, the power that is released from that, it's going to change the world.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a little voiceover for the ceremony we saw this evening, what that represents?
Certainly.
What it meant to you?
Okay. 8888, an evening of apocalyptic delights, was very deliberately designed as a ceremony and a ritual to celebrate the death of the 60s. For one thing, the Sharon Tate murder was a symbolic representation of the end of an entire way of thought, of compassion for the weak, peace for its own sake, pacifism that breeds stagnation. That entire way of thinking was finally destroyed on August 8th and 9th, 1969. And that is why we chose this evening to perform a ritual of cleansing and of purification. And it also is symbolic of the unholy alliance of various satanic entities in the world. Radio Werewolf, Non, the Church of Satan, and the work that Adam Parfrey has been doing. All of these things are coming together into what I've termed the demonic revolution. And it's going to continue in ways that will surprise people, because what the mediocre mind perceives as Satanism has very little to do with Satanism. Heavy metal music, drug abuse, sacrifice of children and animals, all of this is a smokescreen that the media has created, abusing people's Christian processed fears. And Satanism, occultism, paganism, all of this is going to bring the 21st century into a truly demonic way of life.
What is a demonic way of life?
Well, the daemon, as it was defined by Plato, was the true part of man, the real part of man, the authentic part of man. It isn't the Christian bugaboo. It isn't something that lives in hell. It's right here with us right now. It's energy, it's fire, it's the spirit that makes life worth living. And most people today don't have it. They absolutely don't have it. We see people who are adventurous, and to most people, adventure is considered evil. Anything that is not given to them, anything that's not part of their assembly line lifestyle is considered evil. So in that sense, perhaps we do represent evil.
Is there an absence of guilt, though?
Absolutely. Guilt is part of the Judeo-Christian value system, and we reject it completely. And the fact is, we cannot teach others to reject the Judeo-Christian system. People are born this way. It's part of genetics. It's part of our destiny. There's a certain small elite, a different breed of human being that has really little to do with humanity as a whole. And this sort of thing has been misunderstood through the centuries as vampirism, lycanthropy. All these traditions are really real recognitions of the potential of mankind. It's the next step in evolution, and that's what we're bringing about.
Okay. Yeah, again, describe the apocalypse from your perspective.
Well, the apocalypse, of course, is a Christian term. It derives from the Bible. So really, I have to say, semantically, the apocalypse means nothing to me. The world already ended, but we are now undergoing the final death of a certain way of life. The human life wave is being destroyed. It's destroying itself. It's destroying the earth that it lives on, and people are living in a trance. They're somnambulists. They literally are brainwashed, and I don't mean to use the word in a cliched phrase. They cannot think for themselves any longer. The television thinks for them. The television is thinking for them right now. They can't break away from that conditioning, and they never will, and they're going to destroy themselves. And we celebrate that destruction. We revel in that destruction, because at last it means that the world is going to be the way we want it to be. We are recreating reality, and we're recreating it in our own image. So we're very joyful at the prospect of what you would term the apocalypse. If Armageddon is coming, then we welcome it with open arms. A bloodbath would be a cleansing and a purification of a planet that has been dirtied and degraded for too long.
Not that you would probably speculate on why they say this, but why do you think that the fundamentalists, so to speak, are ranting and raving about the apocalypse?
Because I think any wounded creature that's in its last gasps rants and raves. I mean, a wild dog that you'll eventually have to shoot rants and raves and foams at the mouth. And that's basically what these evangelists are. Christianity isn't even worth discussing. It's a dead issue. It's beating the deadest of horses. Christianity is not a vital or living force in the world anymore. And this next millennium is really going to be a satanic millennium, if you prefer to use that terminology. But to move to a higher form of understanding, it needs no terminology at all, because those who are a part of it understand it in their blood. And the blood is where real understanding comes from. It isn't an intellectual process. In fact, the intellect is a crippling thing. We don't represent the intellect or dry academia. We represent vital existence, and that is the predatory existence, and that's what, again, is considered evil. That's what's condemned as villainous or devilish. And we are very proud of the villains in human history, because almost universally everyone that's been considered a villain is a hero, is someone who has broken away from the mold of mediocrity, and with a vision of a new world, created the steps towards the new world that is finally dawning. It is a new order that we are bringing about. And we could go centuries back and find those people from the Paleozoic age to today, and it's always been a very small percentage. It's never been many. But these are the people who really create reality.
Can you name some of the greats that have persuaded this order in some way?
I think Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the great thinkers of our time. Charles Manson, certainly. Adolf Hitler. The list goes on and on. And also, I wouldn't want to encourage the worship of these heroes, because true Satanists, true workers of an occult path, need not to worship anyone. A true leader doesn't need anything except himself. So we don't look back to history and revere it. It is a nostalgic movement.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I appreciate the interview.
Thank you, John.